Welcome again to isifeedublog. I am your physics teacher, Stephen Chooks. Today we are going to talk about the terms used in waves. But before we start, don't forget to like this video, subscribe and share the video with your friends. These are the terms used in wave that will help us in the subsequent things we are going to treat in wave. We are going to start with the first one, which is amplitude. We say, what is amplitude? Amplitude is the maximum displacement of wave from a fixed point. Let us take a look at this wave graph. This is a wave, progressive wave illustrated in a graph. We say that amplitude is the maximum displacement of the wave from a fixed point, which means if this is the fixed point and we take it in this direction, we can see that this wave starts from here, the disturbance starts from here and increases to a given point, which is the maximum point, before it begins to go down again. So we say from this point to this point is the amplitude. Again, we said we don't forget that amplitude is measured in meters. Secondly, we talk about the frequency. What is frequency? Frequency of a wave can be defined as the number of waves or the number of cycles a wave completes in 1 second. Hence, we say mathematically, frequency F is given as number of waves per second, where N is the number of waves and T is the time. What is the unit of frequency? The unit of frequency is given as the Hertz, which is the name of the German scientist that discovered electromagnetic wave, abbreviated as Hz, or we can use per second, that is s raised to the power minus 1. Okay, the third one is the period. What is period? Period is defined as the time taken for a wave to complete one cycle. We illustrate period with the capital T, and we say it is the time taken for a period to complete one cycle. That means time per cycle. What is the unit of period? The unit of period is the second, because cycle, number of cycle has no unit. And again, we say that period is time taken, and the unit of time is seconds. So the unit of period is seconds. Now, it is very important for us to talk about the relationship between period and frequency. Remember that when we talked about frequency, we said that frequency is the number of cycles completed in 1 second. And then period is the time taken to complete one cycle. You can see that F is equals to N over T, but period is equals to T over N. We can now see that N over T is the inverse of T over N. Hence, what is the relationship between frequency and period? Frequency is inversely proportional to period, or vice versa. That means F is equals to 1 over period. That means that frequency is the inverse of period, or we can say period is also the inverse of frequency. So when frequency is given, we can simply divide 1 by the frequency to get period, and the same thing can happen to period to get frequency. Now, the node. What is node? We say node is the point of zero displacement of wave. Node is the point of zero displacement of wave. Let us see the nodes in this diagram. Remember, this wave starts from this point, which is the origin, goes up, and as it goes up, the vertical displacement increases until it gets to a certain point, which gives us the maximum vertical displacement, and we call it amplitude. And from this point, it begins to come down until it gets to this point, where there is no vertical displacement at all. So we say all these points are zero displacement of the wave. Hence, all these points can be said to be the node of this wave. Inversely, we talk about the antinode. Antinode is the point of maximum displacement of wave, both vertically, that's both upward and downward. So we can see that all these points here are antinode, where we have the maximum displacement up, we have the maximum displacement down, maximum displacement. All these points are called the antinode. It is very important to know that from this node to this node is called NN. What is NN? NN is defined as the distance between two consecutive nodes. Please, it is very important to know that when counting the distance between consecutive nodes, we call one distance NN. Some student makes the mistake of calling it only one N. So we say from here to here is NN, from here to here is another NN. This will help us in subsequent calculations we are going to do in wave. And then AA is the distance between two consecutive antinodes, which means from this point to this point, or from this point to this point. What is the crest? Crest is defined as the maximum upward displacement of wave, while trough is the maximum downward displacement of wave. So at all the antinodes, the ones up are called crest, while the ones below are called the trough. So we have crest at this point, and we also have crest here. We also have crest here, while this point is trough, and this point is trough, and that happens to the other point. Okay, now let's talk about the wavelength. What is the wavelength of a wave? It is a very important part of wave. Wavelength of a wave is the distance between two successive crests, or the distance between two successive troughs. That means that one wavelength, lambda, we present it with the Greek alphabet lambda. One wavelength is the distance between this crest and this crest, or the distance between this trough and this trough. Because the distance from here to here is equal to the distance from here to here. So it is important to know that if we have lambda here, it is from this point to this point. We can also call this point our wavelength. Very, very important.